And for more on this, I'm joined by defense attorney, former federal prosecutor Sarah Krissoff. Sarah, thanks for coming on. So what normally happens with grand jury testimony, and what are we likely to see from the DOJ now that the president's pushing for a release here? Because usually this kind of thing stays confidential.
Yeah, the default here really is secrecy, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and the system works pretty well. In this case, the attorney general and the deputy attorney general have asked the district court to unseal just the transcripts of what has been presented to the grand jury. So it really is a very limited universe of information they've asked the court to unseal, but I think it's very possible the court just says no. I mean, there's lots of compelling reasons to keep it secret. The least of which is that there's still a defendant in custody for this case, Miss Maxwell. So I think the judge is probably going to be inclined towards keeping it secret, although maybe he can be convinced otherwise.
There are growing calls in Congress now to try to compel the government to release all files related to Jeffrey Epstein. Do you see any legal implications there if that happens?
So, I mean, as I understand, I think Congress itself has little control over that. It's really the Justice Department that has to decide whether or not to release these materials. So releasing materials wholesale in a case like this is I think never going to happen. I mean, these materials are filled with information about people who patronized Epstein's ring, about minor victims, and even with extensive redactions, they just couldn't be released wholesale. I don't think that's a possibility. There is a real question of whether sort of a larger subset of the materials could be released publicly after they're scrubbed for material that really should not be in the public domain. But I mean, I think that's really within the purview of the Justice Department. They are going to decide whether or not that's done.
Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of conspiring and aiding Jeffrey Epstein. She's serving a 20-year prison sentence. Her attorneys are now trying to appeal her conviction. So do you think that conviction will play a role in the government's decision as to whether or not to disclose more evidence from its investigations? Could that disclosure impact her case?
Yeah, I mean, how that really ties in here is the government's request to the trial court to unseal these transcripts and to unseal portions of the case. They're making an argument, there's lots of interest in this is historical significance, but those types of arguments are usually made in cases that are 20, 30, 50, 80 years old, right? And we don't have someone who is in custody still trying to fight their conviction related to the case. So, I mean, there's a real tension here because this is not just a matter of historical significance, but a matter affecting, people who are here today and people who are a woman who is in custody today based on charges stemming from this.
All right, Sarah Krissoff, thank you.